It's now 5:30, time for the regular meeting of the Cook City Council to begin. Roll call shows everybody's present tonight. A meeting and a mayor of the City Council of the Cook, Nebraska convened an open, regular, and public session at 5:30 in the City Council chambers. Okay. Notice of the meeting was given in advance by publication in the Gazette, and there is posted back there by the front door are actions for public review. Okay, invitation tonight, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, Jeremy.
Absolutely. Covering for Pastor Jeff, so
I appreciate you
I'm
doing
trying to
that.
fill his shoes. His shoes are much bigger than mine. So, well, to start the invocation, I thought I'd read a passage out of Isaiah, given the Advent season that we're in. So I'll start with that, and then I'll end in prayer. In Isaiah 9, it says, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this." God, we thank you for this Advent season. We thank you for the Thanksgiving season that we're transitioning now into the Advent season. Help us to always be a people that have an attitude of gratitude. And as we transition into this Advent season, I pray that we look to the light, to the Word, to the one that's come into the world, Jesus. He is our hope, and he is our salvation. Lord, I thank you for the leaders in our community, for gifting them with the incredible abilities that they have. Everything we have, Lord, is from you. So equip them and guide them as they continue to make decisions and govern your people. We thank you, Lord. We love you. And we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You don't have to.
We'll do the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is the reorganization of the City Council and to administer the oath of office for the newly elected council members, Jerry Calvin and Darcy Rambola.
Welcome back.
Meet you up here?
Sure.
Well, we had
You don't mind.
Yeah. Am I gonna recite this, or are you gonna recite it for us?
You can recite together, is that okay?
Okay.
I can read it, whichever one.
Should have my back to the camera, that's really rude. Well, it's on the other side.
All right, I'll go this way. Want to read or I can read? Which way do
You wanna read it, or you want her to read it?
not matter?
whatever's easier for
Raise
you.
your right hand and I'll just go read it then.
Go, sir.
Do you
Jerry Calvin,
Darcy Rambley.
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or for the purpose of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of council member according to law and to the best of my ability. And I do further swear that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force. So help me God.
I do. Thank you.
No. See, I need you guys to sign this.
Congratulations.
And you just give it to me when we're done. How's that?
And I'm a grandpa again.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations.
Do you need a charger? Yes, that's what they sign that, or do
Thank
they
you.
supposed to sign that?
I'll hop over there to sign.
Okay, sure.
You're most welcome. Thank you, sir.
We're doing a recall.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the election of the mayor.
Minutes.
Oh, yeah.
That's when Nate takes over?
Right, is it?
I didn't hear it.
They're asking, do you wanna do, secret ballot or?
Does not matter, I did leave pieces of paper there, whichever way you wanna do them.
Do we have to do nominations?
Nominations?
Yes,
Yes,
you do need
yeah.
nominations, so yes. We can either vote
I
by
nominate.
light or you can vote secret ballot, however.
I nominate our current mayor.
I'll second that.
Do you want secret ballot or do you?
I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, so
Raise hands.
let's do
Lights.
electrical.
Okay, I will turn the lights on.
Oh, lights.
Yeah, this one will be the lights, cause I don't have
Lights.
Okay.
anything in there, so. 5 votes cast yea, no votes cast nay.
Okay, the next is the election of vice president of the council. I nominate Jerry Calvin.
Second.
Okay.
5 votes cast yea, no votes cast nay.
Okay. Next item is the determination of seating order. Is everybody happy?
I'm tickled.
Okay, are there any announcements or recognitions?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Wow, okay. The next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is approved on one motion. Any item listed on the consent agenda made by the request of any single council member or public in attendance be considered as a separate item under the regular agenda.
I have nothing to pull, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor. Nothing.
Staff, anything? Okay, public, anything? Okay,
We're co-hosting a chamber mixer tomorrow evening from 5:30 to 7:30, along with city staff and the chamber. At the Keystone, 5:30 to 7.
thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
On the consent agenda, I make a motion, we accept items A through E. Second.
Okay,
I missed that.
No, Shirley Temple.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
5 votes cast yea, no votes cast nay.
Okay, next item on the regular agenda is to approve the selection of Mammoth Sports Construction to serve as the design company for the sports complex project.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
I have to go back and think, Thanksgiving is kind of, caused me to forget dates. On the, I think it was the 21st, yeah, the 21st day of November, our sports complex committee had an opportunity to interview 5 different firms. They were, let's see, RDG Planning and Design, Clark and Henderson, JEO Consulting Group, Ella's Construction, and Mammoth Sports Construction. And the in-person interviews went very well. All 5 companies accounted very well for themselves. After the meeting, the sports committee called another meeting. It would have been that following Monday evening, so it would have been the evening of November 25th. And at that time, they discussed all the different companies, the pros and cons of each. Also, prior to that meeting that day, Tara, Kyle, and I, we had called around to do reference checks, and we shared our findings from the phone calls that we made with the sports committee. Ultimately, the group decided to go with Mammoth Sports Construction. They really appreciated the personal touch of the presentation. Jake from Mammoth actually was the one that did the presentation. Very, very calm, smooth pitch. I think that he did a fantastic job. Mammoth is a full stop company. They could do the whole thing. This was obviously just for the design side, but they specialize in sports complexes. I think they had said that they had done 147 sports complex facilities here recently. We had a chance to speak with a number of references, and they all had really good things to say about Mammoth. I know that it was neck and neck with another firm. I know RDG was right up there as well too, towards the top. It was very, very close. RDG did a fantastic job too. You guys did all the firms. But ultimately the group decided to go with Mammoth. Kyle, is there anything that I'm missing that you can think of, or Tara?
No, I was very impressed with all 5 presenters. So
Yeah, they all could have done the job.
we were very fortunate to get that much interest from that quality of firms.
Yeah, I think that they are all excited for this project, and I know today I had an opportunity to hear from Jake. He had said that he wanted to let this be known that this is more than just another project, as he has ties to the community. Early in Jake's marriage, they spent many holidays here in McCook at his wife's grandparents. He, along with his whole crew, are honored and thrilled to get to work with the city of McCook on the sports complex. And so if the council approves moving forward with Mammoth, we're going to start working on trying to get a contract done. Like we've discussed, we have to have the contract done before the end of the year so we can obligate our ARPA funds that we have been kind of setting aside for the design firm contract. So if I can get it done by December 16th, I'm going to get it done by December 16th. If not, we're probably going to have a special meeting. So just keep that on your radar. But if we can, we'll try to get that back to the council by December 16th. The one thing that really kind of was an eye opener to me, and everybody did a fantastic job. You could tell they really wanted the contract. They brought 13 people with them that day. They brought a plane out. They had a car that they brought out. I think the car's still sitting at the airport right now. I'm not sure what the story with that is, but they definitely showed an interest in McCook, and I think that the committee felt that. So yeah.
Did Jake have any kind of a timeline as far as when he wants to really start bringing something to you?
So I think he's gonna listen to the sports committee. So this is where things really start getting fun, because now we can start imagining and thinking about what this design is going to look like. And the design process, he said it could take, anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. Upon completion of design, then construction part will start. And I think that they're comfortable with our timeline, because it's going to take us that much time. It will match up well with the anticipation notes that we've issued, and we're also going to be able to issue additional bonds. There's still going to be some additional funding that will be available through the sales tax. I think that this course is going to give us some additional avenues as far as some grant opportunities. This land, I think, is going to give us chances that maybe we didn't have. The other nice thing about this is we're going to be able to claim our sales tax exemption. And so got some things working for us right now, I think that's going to make this, plus all the, I'm just trying to think of, you know, the grant funding that we've already submitted for, like the MIAC grant, you know, potentially looking at CCCFF dollars for something like this. I mean, just a lot of different opportunities that we're gonna be able to avail ourselves to. So, just excited to move forward with the project. I think that everybody's gonna be welcome to these meetings. We're gonna advertise them. Just because you're not on the sports complex committee doesn't mean that you can't be there and share your thoughts. I know we talked about surveying this firm that is being recommended by the sports complex committee. They can do everything in-house. You know, if you look at their RFQ, you know, they're able to do fundraising, they're able to do surveys, they've got a community outreach component, they've got all that stuff that we're gonna be able to get people's input. And I think that before you know it, we're gonna have something that people are really excited about. Try to make sure that we maximize the space that we have out there on this lot. Hopefully we can size it in a way that we're able to go ahead and do the residential development and commercial development that we want to see out there as well too. So,
The committee staying together.
yeah, yes, the committee stays together. They're gonna be working hand in hand with the design firm, with Mammoth, to come up with a design. And obviously there'll be updates to the council and whatnot as we move forward.
I was just gonna add, because it came up at some of the previous meetings about having too many council member present. I can advertise that council members will be, or may be present, and that way you'll be covered, so you can attend one of the meetings. Didn't happen the last time because I wasn't here, but we can do that in the next one.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, are we ready for the question?
I am.
From Anna. Okay, all those in favor vote yea, opposed nay.
My vote's cast yea, no votes cast nay.
Okay, is there anything else you wanna add?
No,
Okay.
we can go ahead and move. I
Okay,
pretty much said that.
we're going to discuss a request from Charlie McPherson to secure an easement from the city of McCook for property identified as parcel number 000953100. Said easement to be used to secure permanent access to the property east of the city parcel.
It's just a discussion item.
Yeah, just a discussion.
Okay.
Charlie, come
Come
on
on
up
up.
and
Good enough.
and let's discuss.
So, tail end of August, early September, my wife and I purchased a parcel of land on the east side of McCook near the airport. And we kind of already knew what to expect walking into it. But the parcel is pretty much landlocked. There's no direct access to that property currently. The previous owners had it attached to a house on Apollo Street. One of the spouse passed away and his wife put it up for sale over a year ago. Since then, the house is sold, but they relisted the parcel, which we ended up picking up. So there's no direct access to the lot. There was a verbal agreement with the owner of the Cedar Inn. And in that conversation, I've had several conversations with that individual, and he said I could continue to utilize that or have the same agreement in place that he had with the previous owner. However, the issue with that is he is looking at selling that property, and if it changes hands, the next owner may not allow that access. So talking with Nate and Kyle and Pat for a while about this, that there is a city-owned small lot there to the southwest of that property that really doesn't. Here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there we
Scroll
go.
sideways, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right
that
there.
lot right there.
So the green is our lot that we purchased.
Red piece on the bottom right.
Yep.
Right here. There you go, yep. And the lot outlined in red is a city-owned lot. That really only provides access to the utilities behind the houses on Apollo. Other than that, it really doesn't serve a purpose. So what we're asking is easement, request to utilize that strip to access that parcel of land off of Apollo Street.
How big is that strip that we own?
It's not big at all. If you drive by and blink, you'll miss it. I don't think it's more than 50 or 60 feet wide by, I think at the longest end, it's a little over 100 feet. When I just measured it from an aerial view like that, I'm not quite sure what the actual size is.
Okay.
It's not real big at all.
Isn't that Doc Wares?
Yep, so that's Dr. Jones's house there to the north, and then below, to the south is the Cedar Inn, so that's it, sandwiched between those two properties. But that would allow us to access from the west side, coming off of Apollo to enter the lot we purchased.
What are you thinking for easement terms? City take care of it if it's a?
No, we'll maintain it, we'll do whatever you guys need, we'll keep it mowed and cleaned. And what I ultimately, we're looking at doing is laying gravel on top so we don't tear up ruts and the grass that's there, is just gravel it, and we're just gonna enter and exit from there. We're not gonna do any land, we're not gonna do anything to it. We'll maintain it and just utilize it for access.
So how far does the mailman have to walk to get to your box?
I gotta find that out. They may have us put it right out there on
He might
the.
change
I can
your
think of
mind.
one person who'd be like, that's a long way to walk.
You might change your mind.
Right. But I guess our ask is in perpetuity until we are able to, we're gonna continue to look how we can acquire additional land around it for a permanent that we own, permanent access, but this will allow us to get in there and develop the ground over the next few years till we're able to get in there. Our plan is to build a house back there at some point.
In that green area?
Yeah.
Why do we keep that piece of land? I mean, what are we using it for, Nate?
Well, we're not using it for a whole lot right now. It just gets you access to that back side with the alleyway, and then on the north side, you can't really see it. That's a platted street. And there would be some concerns if you were to go ahead and grant access through that area on the north side. Kind of goes back to the issue that we're having with West 14th Street right now. There are some, I would be concerned about having to go ahead and potentially do some additional infrastructure work in that area,
Okay.
which I don't know if anybody in that area would be too comfortable with that. I think if you're coming from the south with an easement, you probably avoid some of that stuff.
Is there a curb cutout for
No,
your?
we would take that on.
You would take that, okay.
Yeah, that would be something we took on at our own cost.
Yeah, it's really odd that would get split. I'm assuming that was supposed, even though it's not platted street, I'm assuming that maybe that was the intent at one point in time and they just didn't plat it all the way through. But the fact that you've got a lot that doesn't have access from any location right now, it's kind of problematic. The other thing is you've got some topographic issues over on the north side. You've got a pretty severe drop. So as you proceed east from Apollo, it drops off pretty quickly. And I just don't see there ever being any development of that street. Just to the east of there, let's see, that would be.
That's
the old,
17
yeah,
right there.
The old TRW road?
The old TRW building.
That's what I remember.
The old one, Jerry?
Yeah, that just needs road.
It's the old TRW road.
Oh, the old. The VFW.
Used to run
is on
behind
that, right?
yeah, VFW club is there.
Yeah. There you go.
East 17th Street, whatever.
So
There would be
at the
no
north
reason
side,
to
that's
run.
what Nate's referring to, is that strip to the north, that platted street.
I just don't see that ever getting built out.
Is that Rick Willow irrigation? Is that what it is?
And the same would
It's
be
weathercraft,
Yeah.
Okay, Weathercraft is.
Red Willow Chemical to the east.
to the south.
Yeah.
Would you ever see
Yeah,
that need to
yeah.
run?
I know where that.
You can do an easement without having to actually go through the process of the bid or auction route. Cause that's the, I guess that's the kicker, while you have to try to sell it. Then,
go through an auction.
right, you have to go either through the bid or the auction process,
Don't ever see a need to run East D Street over to 17th? Across that line that Charlie's talking about, cause this would be D, and that's F.
I don't foresee us probably putting a lot of money into East 17th Street. That's always just been kind of, almost like an alleyway.
Yeah,
I don't
utility
know.
road.
We actually drove that, when Charlie had made his initial inquiry, Charlie and Kyle and myself, we drove that.
You
And
survived
it's-
that?
Yeah, we did, but there were some
Little
spots
rough
where I
over
was
there.
kind of unsure whether we make it out, so it's a pretty rough condition.
That is a tough road.
Okay,
But yeah, I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of people that would need access, really the only property that would benefit from this would be the property owner that purchased the lot that Charlie and Trina had purchased, so. And go to the south. Why that was ever subdivided or allowed to be subdivided the way that it was, it's beyond me, shouldn't have been allowed, but it's what we're dealing with. Again, it was done years and years and years ago, and now I gotta figure out a way to deal with it.
I think an easement makes sense.
okay,
We'll bring that back then.
and you're gonna bring it back to us?
I'll draft it, yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
bring that back.
All right, thanks. Okay.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yep.
Okay, next item on the agenda is receive and
Yeah, you
file
want me to email it to you?
Yeah, email it to
presentations
me.
from city staff updating the fixed base operator
thank you.
status at the McCook Danielson Regional Airport.
It's been a busy couple of weeks out at the airport, and, before we get started, I really do wanna give a tip of the hat to Kyle and Kenny Bonds. They've done a fantastic job getting everything organized, and we're getting close to the point where we're ready to start fueling again. Again, I don't remember the date specifically, but on, the Tuesday prior to November 15th, we had an opportunity to speak with, Red Willow Aviation's owner. And at that time, had been informed that there was a possibility that a bankruptcy might be filed on the 15th. And so we started calling around, trying to come up with a plan of attack. Kyle and Kenny contacted the city of Kearney through Austin Lamming. He had some connections out there. We were able to go ahead and make another connection then with AvFuel, so that way we could start the process of securing potential equipment, depending on what happened with the bankruptcy, if that were to have been filed. And then also information regarding fuel. We needed to make sure that we had an account set up and everything, and so Kyle and Kenny worked on the paperwork for that. We got everything turned in. Also that same week, we started trying to reach out to the employees at Red Willow Aviation, saying, hey, look, if it's possible, would you guys consider staying on, maybe as an independent contractor to the city of McCook, to make sure that we can provide fueling services. It's hard for people to understand, and I know that I didn't quite understand it when I first started this job, but the airport really is an extremely important feature that the city of McCook has going for it. We've got a lot of things out there that other communities don't have. And so we didn't want to see too long of a lapse if the bankruptcy would have been filed without having fueling. And so we sat down, Nate, Kyle, Kenny, myself, some other staff members, I know Tara and Tracy were in there, trying to work through the details. We can't bring them on as an employee of the city because we've already established our employees for this budget year. Plus we started thinking about what does this look like as far as where we're gonna come up with the funds to serve in this capacity for a period of time. So we'll be talking about that in a little more detail later on, but council contingency is kind of what we're looking at to try to bridge the gap between right now and when we're able to locate another FBO to serve the FBO services out there at the airport. On the 15th, the bankruptcy was filed. That was a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. It's liquidation, which basically means that everything gets sold off. We didn't have the ability to make any decisions once the Chapter 7 bankruptcy was filed. Assets, the buildings, all that stuff that's out there, whether it's equipment, buildings, whatever the case may be. It's all owned by Red Willow Aviation. And once the bankruptcy was filed, it became the possession of the Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee. So that next week, we contacted the attorney for Red Willow Aviation. He gave us the name of the bankruptcy trustee. That Tuesday, we were able to make connections with the bankruptcy trustee and kind of explain to him what our concerns were. He understood. We also had a chance to speak with the secured creditor. They understood our concerns. They've been really good to work with, but there's just a lot of things that you have to take into consideration when you're trying to take over this operation. So following our discussions with the trustee, we started working on a lease agreement. And again, that's another item that we're going to be looking at tonight. The lease agreement was basically for the city to be able to operate out of the essential buildings on the airport site that were owned by the FBO. Also, the equipment that was going to be essential to the operation of the fueling services. We needed to make sure that we had access to that. We needed to make sure that we protected the trustee. That was one of the things that the trustee said was, yeah, I'm willing to work with you, but you're going to have insurance and you're going to have to indemnify us. So we contacted Ben Kohler over at Ellerbrock Norris, and he started working on the insurance side of things for us. We started looking at all the things that could potentially be an issue, you know, whether it's property and casualty, liability. You know, we started talking about workers' comp with the independent contractors and whether you could go ahead and have workers' comp through the city, or whether we'd have to go a different direction since they weren't going to technically be employees. I started working on all those details. Eventually, last week, we were able to go ahead and strike a deal. I do have signed signature pages from both Nebraska Land Bank and the bankruptcy trustee. So right now we just need to have the signature on the lease from the city of McCook, and we've got a binding lease. The one nice thing that we have discovered throughout this process, the bankruptcy is going to stop any other revenue from going to the estate. It now will be ours, so we're going to be able to hopefully offset some of these expenses through the sale of fuel, which is great. You know, and we've been talking to the FBO's former employees to kind of get a feel for what the pricing may look like. I think we've got a pretty good handle on that right now. The other thing that we've been working on is the contracts with each of the former employees, and like I said, we've had to set it up as independent contractor contracts. And so they aren't going to be technically employees of the city of McCook. They're going to operate independently, but they're going to be able to provide the fueling services, and they all have the knowledge and the ability to perform out there. And they're all excited to get going. We were working with them today, trying to get some of the last second details included. You know, we were working through our insurance rep again, trying to make sure that we had the workers' comp set. We're trying to make sure that we have all of the insurance issues as far as the property and casualty taken care of. We've got a couple more questions on the liability side, but we're getting closer. It's our hope that we're going to be able to begin operations here shortly as far as fueling goes, and we do appreciate everybody's patience in this matter because there's been a lot of work that's been done to get to this point. But I think ultimately this is going to be a good opportunity for us. We've had some good conversations with people and have had an opportunity to kind of hear some of the concerns from some of the stakeholders out there, which has been great. One of the things that's also come from this, we had a good conversation with FAA and the Nebraska Department of Transportation last week about trying to reschedule. So right now we're in the middle of working on our ALP and AMP, and it's been about 2.5, 3 years that we've been working on that. And one of the things that was stressed during the construction of the ALP and AMP is that the airside needs of the airport were going to have to be taken care of first before we could actually start looking at the revenue side with respect to CIP projects out there, capital improvement projects out there. Well, we had a good conversation with FAA and NDOT here this last week, and they understand, you know, based upon our circumstances, there's nothing more important than making sure that we're able to provide fueling operations out at the airport. And so we are potentially, and it all depends on how everything flows. I don't wanna jinx anything or get everybody's hopes up, but we might be able to go ahead and move forward a self-serving fueling station in front of some of the airside items that we know that we're gonna have to take care of. That'll require some additional conversations, and we're actually gonna have an airport advisory commission meeting this upcoming Thursday to kind of look at some different spots for where a self-service fueling station could go and not hamper the ability to function out there at the airport. So, so that's one good thing that's come from this. I don't know, Kyle, Kenny, do you guys have some additional things? I know I forgot some stuff. There's just a lot of things that have happened over the course of the past couple of weeks.
The only thing I wanna add is, it's highly unusual for something like this to happen, to where a non-airside need gets bumped ahead of an airside need. So kudos to FAA and NDOT. The fueling station has been on our CIP data sheet, or on our list as a CIP data sheet for several years. But again, like Nate stated, the airside needs have to be done first. It's kind of like what happened with the hangar. We built a 6-place hangar several years ago. The only reason we got funding for that is because our airside needs were all done. We had to do easements and stuff like that prior to. And then we had all those completed at the time, so that allowed us to do a revenue generating project per se. But in my opinion, FAA and NDOT are going kind of out of the way to make this happen for us. Technically, the CIP, we had a CIP data sheet submitted to NDOT earlier this year, an updated one. Technically, your CIP data sheets have to be approved no later than April by the FAA and NDOT. Here we are December, and they're making an exception, so kudos to them for working with us.
Thank you.
And we've got W Design working on cost estimates and whatnot, which will get forwarded then to the appropriate authorities. So, and our plan is to hopefully have that out by
Greg's already submitted, Greg submitted the estimate already this afternoon.
Oh, he did already?
Yep, and the
Great.
commission is going to be meeting on Thursday.
Wonderful.
Did you have anything, Kenny?
No?
Kenny's done a fantastic job. I can't say enough
Always
good things
does.
about Kenny.
He's
I mean,
solid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we met with the Nebraska Land Bank representatives today, and there were no specific issues. We didn't have access to anything until this morning. So the first time that we were able to get inside of the hangars was today, because the bankruptcy trustee was the only one that had the authority to do so. So we had to have the lease in place before we could even do that. So, which I appreciate Nate moving so fast on that as well too. I mean, it's been crazy trying to get everything finalized, but I've got a great team and they do a fantastic job. So.
The other thing I want to state is appreciation for those employees, former employees of Red Bull Aviation too. They've stepped up and are willing to assist us like they are, so hats off to them as well, because without them, we wouldn't be near as far as we are today.
Great.
Yeah, so question was, is DAC still flying? And they are. They're fueling in Denver and then making a trip back to Denver. So, but we've had issues for general aviation. I know that we've had some concern expressed by FedEx and UPS, and I've been emailing back and forth with them, and then also had some emails back and forth with the hospital just to make sure that they were aware of what was going on. Spoke with Troy Brunts and also Dr. Lawton. So we've been trying to make sure that we are giving everybody the information that they need, letting them know kind of where we're at. Long term, we're not going to be able to provide FBO services just because our budget's not going to allow that. You know, that's been a question that's been brought up in the past. We don't have the ability to do that on top of everything that we're already doing. But that said, you know, this gives us an opportunity, hopefully, to find a good FBO that can serve in that capacity, and there is some interest that's been expressed, which is exciting. Now that we actually can have access to the facilities, I think that probably you'll see some companies want to come up and tour the facilities, so that way they can see with their own eyes what it looks like, and they can put pencil and paper to see if this is a good financial move for them to come to McCook. But I think long-term, this is probably a good thing. Not to, you know, besmirch anybody or anything like that, but at this point in time, I think that for us to move forward, I think that you know, having maybe some, you know, fresh perspective and, you know, a different way of maybe looking at the FBO services, it's probably a good thing for the city of McCook.
Great. Okay, next item, any other questions? Next item on the agenda is to ratify the lease agreement between the city of McCook and John D. Smallnaker,
Yeah.
Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee for the bankruptcy estate of Red Willow Aviation and Spraying Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, council? Good.
So, as part of this lease agreement, I'll save these questions for the next item.
Okay, I mean, the lease agreement, Nate drafted it and
And I
then
stayed
the-
awake when I read it. That was amazing.
The Nebraska
Thank you.
Land Bank and the bankruptcy trustee, they had some suggestions, we were comfortable with the suggestions. Like I said, we're still kind of working through some of the insurance details, I'm hoping that maybe by tomorrow we have all that completed. Once we have the insurance solidified, I think that we're gonna be ready to go.
Okay.
Both the workers' comp and the property and casualty and liability, and the independent contracts as well too.
Okay. We're ready, Leanne. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay.
Oh, geez, mine just got smaller too. 5 votes cast yea, no votes cast nay.
Next item on the agenda is to authorize the use of the City of McCook City Council contingency line item to assist with funding fueling operations at the McCook Ben Nelson Regional Airport during the pendency of the Red Willow County Aviation bankruptcy.
I move to authorize the use of City of McCook City Council contingency line item 10 to assist the funding fuel operations at the McCook Ben Nelson Regional Airport during the pendency of Red Willow Aviation bankruptcy.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
Okay, so lease gets signed, how soon can we start pumping fuel?
Like I said, this week is kind of our goal.
Okay.
I can't guarantee, so one of the things that we were talking to Ben Kohler about today was, as far as workers' comp insurance for the independent contractors, it could take a day to 2 days in order to get that up and running. Ben is gonna actually help each of those 3 individuals get secured through the pool. So we're trying to do whatever we can to expedite the process. It's just, it's gonna take some time for the pool to go ahead and say, yes, you know, we're gonna go ahead and qualify them to be a part of it.
Do we have fuel in the tanks out there now?
Yes, we do, yeah, and,
That's part
yeah,
of it.
we've got fuel in the tanks right now, and then also have fuel in those that we're, gonna be ready to start purchasing fuel from them here in the short term.
It takes about a day or 2 to get a transport here, so it's not a
Oh.
long.
Okay.
And we've got all the equipment, they've sent out the equipment, so we're ready to go.
That's the question, equipment's in sound condition, are we gonna have to put any amount of money in the infrastructure of the refueling and or the equipment? Or was it maintained well, or is it just, we're gonna step in and take over?
We'll step in and take over. We talked to Zach today. He has a pretty good feel on what's going on out there. So if there are issues, he's gonna let us know. But he didn't say that there were any concerns off the top of his head.
Okay,
We do have a contingency plan in place in the event, because I'll be honest with you, the trucks out there are old.
Mhm.
They are. If something were to happen, AF Fuel does lease trucks, so we do have a contingency plan. We're kind of on their radar in the event. Obviously, it costs money to lease them, but we do have that contingency.
Which is
plan in
something the
place.
city of Kearney had to do at one
Yeah.
point in time. We had a good conversation with Kearney about 3 years ago. Not quite the same set of circumstances, but they went through something somewhat similar. And so we were able to kind of touch base with their assistant airport manager, and they were able to kind of fill in what they did. And the AV fuel portion was very, very helpful. The information they gave us on the AV fuel portion was very helpful.
The contingency fund is, you mentioned earlier, it finally clicked for me, is basically a bridge gap loan type of a situation.
Well,
We need that money to start operating right away.
right, yeah, and now the fueling side, you know, if we're able to go ahead and offset some of those expenses through the sale of the fuel, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
But we need to make sure that so we have nothing in our budget that allows us to take over the airport right now, you know, and you know, during this budget season, you know, we all understand how tight everything is right now.
Yes, it is.
So the only resource that I could think of that we could actually tap into right now and feel comfortable that we're ready to go ahead and provide services right now is council contingency. So Leanne and Kyle and Tara and I, we all sat and talked about it. I have never asked for the council to use council contingency. I asked Kyle. Kyle said he's been here for 30 years and there's never been a request like this.
How about 50 years, Leanne?
We did for something, but I don't remember what it was. Very minor, let's put it that way.
What is
Electricity.
Do we have a base timeline for the contingency?
Well, so the problem with the bankruptcy is we don't know how long it's gonna take. I've read the petition. It's pretty lengthy. So it could take some time, but there are some things that maybe could happen in the interim. You know, we're actually, so one of the things I forgot to mention, we're gonna meet with the bankruptcy attorney from Barrett Home tomorrow, via telephone, just to see if they could help represent our interest. But could we go in there and petition the court for relief to allow for us to, maybe start looking at the possibility of the sale of assets? If there was an FBO that was available, maybe that's something we could take a look at. I mean, these are all just hypotheticals right now. I'm not saying that it's gonna happen, but there are some things that maybe could occur during the course of the bankruptcy that might allow for us to expedite our end of things. But in the interim, we at least have to be able to provide fuel. I mean, that's the key out there right now for
That's
us.
priority.
We've gotta be able to provide fuel.
So with the numbers that Greg gave you this afternoon, do you think that contingency is gonna be enough to bridge it entirely, or do we have the danger of possibly needing to continue operation with no funds?
So with what Greg's working on, we actually, in our budget, we had $75,000.
Two different things.
Yeah, we had $75,000 set aside for the self-service fueling station.
Okay,
Sorry. It was the air side. I gotta make sure.
Displaced threshold.
So it was gonna be, yeah.
redesignation.
And then we had talked about some lighting,
Yeah.
some painting and some things like that.
okay,
But we already had $75,000 set aside for a 10% match of whatever FFA or FAA funds were designated for a project. Plus, there is the potential for maybe utilizing some other funds. We found out that we didn't get the Safe Streets for All grant. So there'd be $80,000 there that we could potentially utilize if we needed to, but I don't think we're gonna need to. The other thing that we found out was in 2025, as opposed to a 10% match, we're talking about a potential 5% match, which if that's the case, it's going to cut in half our obligation. So we've got the money there for the self-serving fueling station moving forward.
okay.
On the other end of the council contingency, that deals with all the general fund items that occur out there. You know, and again, we don't provide fueling services, we don't provide mechanical services. We just don't have the money to do that, you know, and I don't know how in the world we would ever do that. But this does provide a stopgap to allow for us to get the independent contractors put into a position where they can begin the fueling process. We won't be able to do mechanical, we won't be able to do you know, the other items. But our hope is that by providing the fuel and then being able to move forward with the bankruptcy and potentially having our interests represented, and who knows what's gonna happen, but at some point in time, being able to get an RFP out there, maybe someone's interested in McCook. Like I said, I've had a lot of conversations with people over the course of the past 2 weeks. There is interest in McCook, but it's gotta make sense for these businesses to make it work. They'll come in and then we'll contract with them to provide the services. But the city of McCook is not going to be able to fund that ourselves. I mean, there's just no way. We're talking about the insurance cost for the premium for an individual, it's astronomical. Now, on an interim basis and at the city rate, it's probably going to be less. But it's an expensive proposition running an airport. And like I said, we're at 44 cents on our levy. 45 is our max. We can't go beyond that. Each cent represents $50,000 this year, something like that. There's no more money. And so we don't have the ability to do this. And that's why 95% of the communities out there, they contract with FBOs to provide those kinds of services because they are essential to their community. But it's not a service that the cities are able to fund themselves. A Kearney, Nebraska, they can pull it off. You know, McCook, it's a little bit more difficult.
You said you got access to the facilities and everything. Was everything maintained? Are we just, we're not gonna have to put a bunch of money into fixing anything per se?
No, we'll be fine there,
In
yeah.
good shape?
The lease does say that if anything breaks or needs repaired, we are responsible for it during the term of the lease.
But I don't think there are any real issues out there. One of the things that we do want to look at is that 8plex and seeing if there isn't some way that we can get access. So that's part of the bankruptcy estate, but it's not really worth anything, just salvage. And so it'd be nice because there's been some inquiry as far as locating a hangar at that spot. So we're gonna see if there isn't some wiggle room, maybe with the bankruptcy trustee, to scrap it. I mean, nobody really cares about the 8plex hangar. That was the intent, you know, a couple of years ago when we had some interest in building a hangar at that location privately. So we surplused it, and now it's just been sitting out there for the past 5 to 6 years. But now we might be able to move forward with an actual hangar project potentially. Because like I said, we've been talking to some people that are interested in doing some things out there at the airport, so.
Thank you for answering all my questions. I appreciate it.
Are we ready for the question?
I've been asking questions. Did I ask enough questions?
You did, yes.
Okay,
All those in favor vote yes, opposed nay.
let's get this done.
5 votes cast yea, no votes cast nay.
Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2024-3094, amending the City of McCook Code of Ordinances by revising section 90.33, dangerous dogs and/or hybrid animals, prohibited terms defined, and section 90.36, dangerous dogs and/or hybrid animals, confiscation in the costs, and section 90.45, impoundment of the animals without immunization tags, disposition of the impounded animals. I introduce ordinance number 2024-3094 by title and ask the clerk to please read the title.
Repeat all that? Oh. An ordinance of the City of McCook, Nebraska, amending the City of McCook Code of Ordinances, Chapter 90, entitled Animals, Section 90.33, dangerous dogs and/or hybrid animals prohibited, Section 90.36, dangerous dogs and/or hybrid animals, confiscation when cost, and Section 90.45, impoundment of animals without immunization tags, disposition of impounded animals, to provide that this ordinance shall be made a part of the City of McCook Code of Ordinances, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Somebody want it?
Ordinance number 2024-3094 has been introduced, read by title, and I move to approve upon its second of 3 readings.
I second that. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay.
My vote's cast yea, no votes cast nay.
Council comments, I want to say thank you to you, Kenny, and to you, Kyle, for acting so swiftly and doing such a great job under all of the circumstances that you've had to deal with. We really appreciate what you guys have
Thank you
done.
very much.
Thank you so very, very much.
And actually, I wanna just piggyback, there's been a lot of people in this office. Nate, Tara, Lilia, Tracy, Debbie, I mean, pretty much everybody, Nate, most everybody has had a piece in it, so it's truly been a team effort.
How the city runs so well. It's a team effort.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, if there's no other comments, this meeting is adjourned at 6. Oh my.
Just another reminder, thanks to Charlie, about the EDC
Oh.
and the city of McCook. So at 5:30 tomorrow.
At the
At the Keystone.
Yes.
Party at the Keystone, yes.
Party.
Okay,
5:30 to 7:30.
5:30 to 7:30.
Yep.
we'll look forward to seeing everybody.
We'll all have Shirley